If the Russians do not return to pumping gas to Germany in the Nord Stream 1 pipeline, then the euro will be more. And its exchange rate against the dollar can reach 90 US cents for every €1 in the winter season, which is late. All of Europe will be locked up in the wall if the Russians do it and do not return to pumping gas into the pipeline, and we are seeing now the volume of gas that Russia sent to Germany via Nord Stream 1 is zero, simply because the line is closed. It has more than a week left for periodic maintenance, which is supposed to be this maintenance process. It ends on July 21st. But the Europeans, especially the Germans, are afraid that Russian President Vladimir Putin will betray them and falter a little in repumping gas or order the Russian company Gazprom responsible for the pipeline. It is possible for Europe at a time when the continent is subjected to economic pressures from all sides, and this pressure is one of its very clear results. Oh, Nord Stream 1 euro, it was traded for less than $1, and this is what happened since 2002. And although we cannot say that the Russian decision is the only reason for the deterioration of the value of the euro in this way, the Russian decision can be said that it was the straw that broke the camel's back. The common European currency, you are facing a decent cocktail of misfortunes. And the big problem is that until this moment, and unlike all the crises that the euro went through before that, no one intervened to save it. What exactly is happening to the euro? Why has its price decreased? Will he prefer to retreat? How can Russia be affected by the price of the European currency? Why is everyone suddenly afraid of Germany's stability? Can Europe benefit from the low price of the euro? How does America trample on the wound of the euro and weaken its value? Why is the European Central Bank sleeping in honey until now? This is a sample of the questions that we will be chatting with each other in this day's episode. I am Mr. Rag. Let's go. The toilet currency, or the currency that smells bad and its exchange rate is ridiculous and unprincipled. Like this is the nickname or the nickname that traders and investors in the financial markets sat for a long time. They call it the most famous European currency ever, the euro, and this makes you, of course, ask what makes a very important currency like the euro known in the market as a decadent like this. As a matter of fact, we are not talking about the Venezuelan bolivar or the Zimbabwean dollar. Not this is what we are talking about here, about the common European currency that is being traded this day in 19 countries of the European Union as an official currency. Mark it with this title? In order to answer this question, it is necessary, let us go back 30 years. Laura, on February 7, 1992, representatives of 12 European countries who signed with each other the Maastricht Treaty, or the Maastricht Treaty, and this treaty you can consider as the founding agreement of the European Union. The important 12 countries that signed the treaty are Germany, Britain, and Spain, Portugal, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Italy, Ireland, Greece, France, Denmark and Belgium agreed that the implementation of the provisions of the treaty must be in 3 phases. There is no call for the first and second phases. Let us focus only on the third and final phase, because it is what concerns us in the context we are talking about. In the third phase, the treaty stipulates that it must be implemented the establishment of an independent European Central Bank and the inauguration of a single European currency at the beginning of 1999. The most necessary means that these steps should not be delayed in any way from the beginning of 1999. The years have passed and we have approached the deadline for the implementation of the third phase of the treaty at a time when the European Union had 15 members. It is assumed that the countries, the 15, implement the third stage and all walk with one hand on the track of monetary integration at the same time, but this is what happened. The important thing is 11 countries, but it was the European Union countries that participated in the launch of the Eurozone, or the Eurozone. These respected countries agreed with each other that as of January 1, 1999, they had a common European currency called the euro. The important thing, sir, is the euro, whose exchange rate was $1.18. What could harden its length against the dollar in the first months of its issuance and began to lose a large part of its value at an amazing speed after nearly 2 years of its issuance? Specifically in September 2000 the euro lost about 30% of its value against the dollar and its exchange rate reached 85 US cents for every 1 euro. This rapid decline has created a global state of concern because the euro is not the currency of one country, not the currency of 11 European countries, including the countries whose economies are considered among the largest in the world like Germany and France. And therefore the deterioration of the euro in this way can be stupidly turned into a global financial crisis that upsets everyone, and on this basis we have one among the largest organized international interventions in the exchange markets. On September 22, 2000 the European Central Bank, the US Federal Reserve, the Bank of Japan, the Bank of England, the Bank of Canada, and with them, all the national central banks in the Eurozone, all these banks, so they enter together at the same time in the foreign exchange market in order to do one thing, which is that they buy the euro and sell its meaning, on the other hand, the dollar, the pound sterling, and the Japanese yen. The revaluation of the euro was at the end of the day. The group of countries was able to raise the value of the euro, to 90 American cents, before it went down again to 87.7 cents. The conditions of the euro were so bad that this huge international intervention, which by the way did not happen again, could not raise its exchange rate above the $1. The euro did not rise above the $1 after about 2 years, specifically in July 2002. But oh joy, the exchange rate did not happen. It did not stay above the $1 except for how many days, but then turned around and came back again, and this was the crazy group of traders in the forex or foreign exchange market. And from here their mockery of the European currency, and their calling it the toilet currency at the end of the year, specifically on December 2, 2002. The euro equaled its exchange rate with the US dollar, and it was installed on top of it from that time. And it did not go down until July 2022 in this month too, and its exchange rate fell to less than $1 for the first time in 2002. And this happened for many reasons, including Russian President Vladimir Putin, the European Central Bank and the US Federal Reserve. In 2022, with his right foot, on the 1st of January, the exchange rate against the dollar was close to $1.13 American cents. The Europeans were entering the new year, and they had nothing to worry about but how to fully recover from the consequences of the corona crisis, which disrupted their economies for months. But from their misfortune something happened. It was not taken into account that Russian President Vladimir Putin decided to invade Ukrainian territory on February 24. The Europeans, who knew that they could not enter into a direct military conflict with Russia, showered Moscow with an infinite number of sanctions targeting the Russian economy. And this was done, in my opinion, without an accurate calculation of the consequences or for the reaction of Russia, which possesses great tools of pressure and influence on Europe, especially in the field of energy. The Russians cut off gas from Poland, Bulgaria, Finland, the Netherlands, and Denmark. And on the other hand, the Europeans made matters more difficult for themselves and decided to ban the import of Russian oil. Europe without Russian oil and gas is wearing a wall, and its effects have begun to be clearly visible in energy prices and, accordingly, inflation rates within the continent. Inflation in the Eurozone reached in June, which reached 8.6%, and this is mainly the result of regarding the rise in energy prices in March. The Europeans had not yet recovered from the state of shock caused by the war. And there was still no clear agreement between them on the way in which they could face the consequences of the Russian war on Ukraine while they were desperate. He grabbed his weapon and decided to hit it all and turn his monetary policy upside down in order to take the whole world down on its heels. At the beginning of the year, the main interest rate in the United States was close to zero, but at its meeting in March, the Federal Reserve decided to raise the interest rate by 25 basis points. And in the May meeting it returned to raise another 50 basis points. And in the June meeting, he raised the interest by another 75 basis points, by the way, so that you stay with me in the picture and keep in mind the meaning of the words that are said. The 1% will be made of 100 points basis point. When I tell you that the Fed raised the interest rate by 50 basis points, it means that it raised it by 0.5%. The main interest rate in America is currently in the range between 1.5% and 1.75%.
And as usual, I have a question for you. In your opinion, if the euro deteriorated, is it possible for America to intervene and cooperate with the European Central in saving it, or not in the interest of the Americans that the euro, which is considered the main competitor to them, collapses? We will follow all your answers in the comments. And in the end, I hope you like the episode and would like to see us again. Subscribe to the channel and wait for new episodes.